Bhavish Aggarwal has cut ties with Microsoft's Azure, and the reason for this might surprise you. So the whole thing started on LinkedIn, where LinkedIn's AI was referring to Bhavish as they instead of he. And so Bhavish called this out, and he said the usage of the term they is an illness, and he said that this AI moderation was imposing a political ideology on Indian users. This in turn led LinkedIn, which is owned by Microsoft, to remove his post for violating their community guidelines. In response, Bhavish went ahead and wrote a detailed blog post where he detailed the actions that he wanted to take against big tech monopolies like LinkedIn. And one of these actions is that he's migrating his entire cloud out of Azure and over to Krutrim Cloud. But apart from taking his business away from Microsoft, which that is a lot of business that he's taking away, Bhavish is also committed to building a digital public infrastructure framework like UPI and ONDC, but for social media. This DPI will be owned by creators, apparently, and the only community guidelines that'll be followed will be the Indian law. And Bhavish wants other people to join him in this crusade against big technology companies like Microsoft. And so he's offering free cloud storage on Krutrim to any developer who wants to leave Azure. So I'm really curious to know, if you're a CTO or you're a tech founder in India using Microsoft Azure, would you consider moving over to Krutrim? And also, do you think Bhavish will actually be able to compete with a tech giant like Microsoft? Leave a comment down below. All right, next up in the news, Zomato keeps staying in the news for all of the right reasons. So they shared their latest financials, and the company has managed to stay profitable for 4 consecutive quarters. That's an entire year of profitability, which is definitely a first for the company. They closed FY24 with 351 crore rupees in profits after tax on revenue of 12,961 crore rupees. Now, in previous news videos, we've talked about a lot of their latest initiatives, from shutting down their operations in more than 200 Indian cities, and also all international markets for that matter, to introducing a platform fee and charging their customers for priority deliveries. But Zomato wasn't the only star in this profitability story. There's also Blinkit. Blinkit is currently the leader in India's quick commerce space with 46% market share in terms of their GMV, their gross merchandise value. And on top of that, Deepinder Goyal has said that Blinkit will be bigger than Zomato in a matter of months. And this news is significant for a couple of reasons. First of all, there was a time not too long ago when a lot of people believed that quick commerce was not a sustainable business and it wasn't here to last. When Zomato bought Blinkit back in 2022, it was barely making 236 crore rupees in revenue and had losses of more than 1,000 crore rupees. And so purchasing this company didn't really seem like a smart decision for a loss-making company like Zomato. And so it's no surprise that they paid the price for this decision on the stock market. Zomato's stock had fallen more than 20% after the acquisition before reaching their lowest just a few weeks after. But in spite of all of this, Deepinder Goyal seemed pretty confident that Blinkit would end up being the crown jewel of Zomato. Ultimately, this ended up being a very smart bet for him to make, as Blinkit is currently making 2,300 crore rupees in revenue, at least as of the end of FY24, and it even turned adjusted EBITDA positive too. Now, speaking of profitability, Abhiraj Singh Bal, one of the co-founders of Urban Company, announced on social media that his company has turned profitable for the first time ever in April of 2024. Now, just to be clear here, this is profit before tax, but this number was 7 crore rupees for the month of April, according to NTracker. And also, Urban Company has been focused on shrinking their losses for a while too, which stood at 514 crore rupees in FY22 and fell to 308 crore rupees for FY23. Also, something that's really worth pointing out here is that according to this NTracker report, Urban Company's Indian operations, which account for almost 90% of their business, have been profitable operationally since October to November of 2022. And so it really was actually their focus on growing their international business, which is something that I always think is awesome to see from Indian companies. That was the reason behind their losses. Also, in case you're wondering why they're focusing so much on profitability right now, well, this hasn't been confirmed yet, but there have been reports that Urban Company wants to go public by 2025. All right, next up in the news, but continue to talk about IPOs here. Insurance company Go Digit, whose IPO opened on the 15th of May, is raising 1,125 crore rupees in fresh capital and another 1,489.65 crore rupees by selling an existing 5.48 crore shares through the offer for sale component of their IPO. This makes the total size of their IPO 2,614.65 crore rupees, and each share has a fixed price band of 258 to 278 rupees. fees. Now, 75% of this IPO is reserved for QIBs, 15% is for non-institutional investors, and the final 10% is for retail investors, basically people like you and me. And as I'm filming this video on the 16th of May, the IPO is already 51% subscribed. Also, it's worth noting that GoDigit isn't the only Indian startup to be opening their IPO. Office sharing startup Awfis is also all set to open their IPO on the 22nd of May, and they're planning to raise anywhere between 576 crore rupees and 599 crore rupees. And at the upper price band, Awfis will be valued at 2,659 crore rupees. That's $318 million, which is almost 3 times their previous valuation of $110 million back in 2022. All right, next up in the news, generative AI platform Hanooman, which was developed by Sita Mahalakshmi Healthcare and 3AI Holdings, was launched last week. And it's available in 98 global languages, 12 of which are Indian, and it's claimed to be the largest multilingual and most affordable Gen AI platform. The platform wants to onboard 200 million users in its first year of launch. That is massive. And so to help them achieve this and operate at that scale, SML India has partnered with Yoda Data Services, which will be providing them with the GPU cloud infrastructure that they need for their operations. All right, now let's move into the funding news segment for today's video. So this week, Indian startups raised a total of $51 million, which is a lot less than the $364 million that they raised last week, and $275 million of this was raised by Meesho last week, and that was reported on Friday after we had already recorded the news video, so that's why we didn't cover it. And looking at some of the companies that raised funds this week, we have Hyderabad-based on-demand ambulance provider Red Health, which raised $20 million in their Series B round, and this is also the largest funding round of the week. Then we also have Bengaluru-based Rupik, which lets you avail loans against your gold, and they raised $6 million in their latest funding round, but this has come at a valuation cut of 60%. After that, we have Mumbai-based Celsius Logistics, which is a company that has a network of refrigerated trucks to transport temperature-sensitive commodities to their clients, and they raised $4.79 million in their pre-Series B round. Next, we have Pune-based Mattel Motion, which manufactures highly efficient electric motors and powertrains for electric vehicles, and they raised $4 million in their Series A round. And then finally, we have Bengaluru-based Sarla Aviation, which is a company that's building electric flying taxis, and they raised an undisclosed amount of funds in their pre-seed round. Now, before I let you guys go, I wanted to check out the latest video that we made about the aftermath of Shark Tank India's Season 1 companies and their founders. We covered 5 of these companies. I really think you'll enjoy this video. I reached out to each of these founders individually and got the inside scoop. So go check it out, and thanks so much for watching this episode of Backstage with Millionaires. I'll catch you in the next one.